create an easier to use, faster played Spycraft game.
Actually, since we were talking about graphics and stuff, I know you guys usually don't do GM screens.
We don't.
Have you considered approaches
We are almost certainly never going to print a screen for one of our games. I'll put that out there ahead of time, just because they are horrific money sinks. Anybody who thinks that a company's made money on one of those things is just flat out wrong. Maybe Kenzer did.
They had the most awesome screen ever.
And maybe Wizards did. Maybe. Although I wouldn't be surprised if that was a lost leader. I don't have the numbers. We made a screen for Spycraft, though, that we're very proud of. It's 6 panels, landscape, built to drop into, in PDF, built to be dropped into one of those, like the Savage World screen.
I think you used the Savage Worlds.
But there's another one here at the show that's awesome.
Okay.
It's just like the Savage World screen. Yeah. I believe it is 4 panels, yeah. But you could just choose to use 2 or 3 or whatever worked for you. So we'll do one of those probably for Fantasy Craft Week.
It's fine, because you always paste that onto somebody else's game screen too.
Right.
It's nice to have something that you guys feel are, these are the tables you're going to most likely need to reference as a GM, and maybe include page numbers.
Sure. Which is exactly what we did with the Spycraft one. And we would be completely open to providing all of the base files to anyone who wanted to do that. So if there's anyone here or at home who wanted to put together that screen, we would help you make that happen.
Right, yeah, because it's just one of those things where it's easy enough for someone else to say, let's shuffle some things around on the page and create this thing. Yeah, exactly.
We unfortunately don't. We just can't afford the time to do it because we're working on new product and whatnot. But if it's one perfect a little freebie we'd love to see somebody do, and we're sure somebody will come along to do it for us sooner or later.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Character sheets.
Yes.
Yes.
I bought Fantasy Craft about 2 hours before I walked in.
Okay.
Okay.
I had very little time to flip through it, but it was organized beautifully.
Thank you.
I spent about 20 minutes on character sheets.
Okay.
Yes, they are multiple pages.
Yes.
But each page is expansive and has everything you're going to need to back to the
Right.
everything.
Good.
Just in the two-tone outlook that looks, it's great.
Well,
Thank you.
The character sheet was an interesting thing. I did a lot of engineering on that one.
Right.
Back and forth.
Steve did all the graphic design.
Steve did all the graphic design, and I was very particular about the character sheet because I have a playtest group. There's a group of guys. I think they're clustered as a group, the Unit 13 guys or whatever. So anyway, there's a number of playtesters that I have been running for years, and I'm a student of human behavior, like absolutely. And so I love to sit and I'm not a con man, but I am a student of human behavior, and so I watch them like use these sheets, and I'm taking notes. I'm like, okay, they're like, where do I put my tricks? You know, and all these other things. So here we've gone and we've made this game. We feel it's a little more streamlined, and it's packing all the stuff we've learned in the last 4 years into it, in addition to fan feedback and everything else. And so the character sheet actually got bigger. It doubled in size. But we knew that, you know, if you're going to have spells, you're going to have this many spells. So you need this many slots. You need this many lines. You need to know this information. Well, we made reputation more important. Well, reputation has to have a space because it's character affecting.
There was a version of this that was only 2 sheets long ago, and it was way too intimidating. Yeah, it was a nightmare. And we looked at it and we sort of shelved it, and we came back to it a couple months later in process and said, let's do this again. And it looks much better now. Thank you. That sheet, all the sheets, including the NPC sheets, are available for free on the site now.
Yeah. So you can just run them off, and you don't have to worry about breaking your spine or anything else.
Just looking for the back and looking through all the sheets that are provided, you have a very good idea of what it takes to run every week.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That was our hope.
Well, I was running the game every week for 2.5 years, nonstop. So, yeah, I've been playtesting Fantasy Craft for about 1.5 years in various
They're like
stages.
you too.
Yes, thank you. It was tough to do that. Yeah, so my guys have been real. They were fantastic in running through and giving us that feedback that helped us define what we needed to provide for gamers. You know, they didn't know they were being observed. It's like monkeys through a 2-way glass. they wouldn't mind me referring to them as apes. But but yeah, it was like watching them through two-way glass the whole time. I'm like, oh yes, this one picks nits off the other one at this time, and you know, that all kind of fed back into the product. So.
We had your whole barbarian moment. Early on, there was that one guy that was playing the barbarian and changed the way that we created one of the classes. I can't remember the whole story.
Oh, there was a time where we figured out a damage combination that happened where, yeah, we figured out a guy who could deal reliably 46 damage a turn.
That's right.
Yeah, this was early. This is actually in Practice Makes Perfect. Was a lead in to which was lead in into stuff that went into Fantasy Craft, and so like we were using those lessons, and we're like, well, we know we're going to use this in Fantasy Craft, so we got to figure out a couple things about it. And so I built the worst barbarian ever, and then we just did Fight Club for 2 nights, like building characters and beating the shit out of each other with them. For it was really fun, and yeah, and I found a guy. I made a barbarian. He was a thug, and yeah, he could generate 46 damage on average a turn. And so the other guy would swing once, he'd swing once. Anyway, so my friend Kevin and I just did this over and over and over again. But yeah, that's the way. I mean, that's the process. That's honest to God playtesting.
Yeah, anybody who thinks that this process is glamorous.
No, it's like I can't make another one, you know.
Spreadsheets for a day and a half.
Yeah, exactly. So there's lots of number crunching, lots of repetitive. I run at you. How fast? Okay, I'm dead within 3 turns this time. Okay, let's change that. Try it over again, and then da-da-da-da-da. Iterative, definitely. All right. Yes.
Yeah. Punchy, you mean funny? Oh, yeah. Well, that's an example of Fantasy Craft in action. Spycraft 2.0, so when we built Spycraft 2.0, we were trying to answer the call that players had given us for years, that you've got this concept. Here's how you could make this attack. Well, what if you do this? Well, what if you do that? What if you do this other thing? And it's almost a never-ending process, and so much was crammed into that system. The grapple rules are a good example. There's so many different, if-then statements, essentially, and so many different potential clauses. There's just a lot of detail. And with Mastercraft, I think we made a conscious effort. I know we made a conscious effort to say, what is the core idea here? What's the most important thing? What's the thing that people want?
Right.
And let's give them that. Now let's move on. And yes, but this spell does one thing. It does it very well.
A good
but here's
example.
one thing.
A good example for punchy spell. Maybe you're thinking the same one. Sleep.
Yeah.
Have you read the sleep description?
I love this.
Okay. Sleep goes through and it has it only has the conditions that affect you. It never explains how sleeping. It goes. Target falls asleep.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, that's the spell description. You go to sleep because it's called freaking sleep. You know, I mean, how hard is this to figure out?
Characters in the area fall asleep. That's it.
There you go.
No.
So, and then it only has, and we don't have none, and all the lines that don't matter. Those lines come out.
Yeah. Now, admittedly, this thing has 6 lines of description prior to it. You know, what the area is, how far away it can be cast, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
Here's
Still
the
functional
interesting
spell.
bit, right? So, if you go looking for, well, what does sleep do in Chapter 5? There's no rule for it. Why? You're asleep. Really? Does there need to be a rule? You're freaking asleep. It's pretty obvious it's a terminal situation. We don't have to describe that. Although in the terminal situation, I do think we specifically say an unconscious character. But
is unconscious also asleep?
What? Yeah, exactly. Here's a good example. Yeah, Spycraft 2.0 had so many specific terms like that,
Yeah,
and we didn't do that here. There are some things that you just don't need to describe.
Right.
So
yeah, we called it out in the terminal situations rules, which is the only time that being asleep really matters. But you know, you can rouse people, and there's a couple places where it comes up. Like,
am I prone when I'm asleep? Well, duh.
Well, unless you were like,
yeah, unless you're asleep on a meat hook.
Oh yeah, or you slept in a you slept in a war zone for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Sleep with your eyes open, maybe, but you're still not.
If
not
you're
there.
if you're the star of Weekend at Bernie's, you might be not be prone when you're asleep. But those things come out of the